Here we go. Welcome to the Macworld podcast. I'm Roman Loyola. Joining us remotely is staff writer Jason Cross. Hi, Jason.
Hello.
In the studio with Leif Johnson.
Hey.
And the most important man in the room, Dan Masuoka, our video producer.
You can just say, and Dan.
That's
fine.
I like to remind people that you are the most important man in the room because I have a segue for that. The reason why he's the most important man in the room is because he's monitoring our Twitter and YouTube feeds. He's looking out for your comments and questions on today's show. So if you have something to say about what we're talking about today, please let us know, and Dan will chime in and let us know what you guys are thinking. So today we're going to talk about some rumors that came out earlier this week about Apple products. But of course, the main news today is that Apple introduced this morning some new MacBook Pros based on the Coffee Lake processor, Intel's 8th generation Core processor. So after I actually meant to check this before the show, how long was it between refreshes? It was over a year, right?
A year.
Yeah. So
I want to say there was an early 2017, more than a year ago, but not.
Yeah.
It hasn't been 2016, has it?
No,
I know
there
mine
was a
is mid 2017.
Yeah, it was definitely 2017, but I can't remember when. So,
yeah, I used the last generation one.
yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's been a while, but Apple has finally released new MacBook Pros this morning.
And all the Windows Coffee Lake laptops. I'm going to keep calling it Coffee Lake because 8th gen just doesn't
right
has no ring to it.
Yeah.
They all released in April.
Yes.
That's when, so everybody, when those came out and it turns out it's great, more cores and they're faster and all this stuff, then everybody goes, well, Apple, why don't you update yours when everybody else gets this? So now's the time.
Yes. It's Gordon Ma-Ung, who's an editor at PC World, and he tracks a lot of laptops for PC World. And we always would have, I think it would happen like every other week. He would be like, where are those Coffee Lake MacBooks? Yes. And I'm just kind of like, he even wrote an article for us a while ago about what could happen and how it would be really cool when Apple comes out with these laptops. So we've been, within our staff, we've been waiting for these upgrades. For people who don't know, Coffee Lake is the code name of the processor. So there's not actually a lake of coffee inside.
I was going to look up and see if that was named for anything.
I don't know how they come up. I forgot how they come up with these names.
Yeah, there are all these names in Washington State or something. KB Lake was the one before that.
Right.
And there was but now I don't even know if they're geographically limited to that.
Right. So is it that's similar to how Apple
of California
applies California names to
same
macOS.
Sort of thing. A lot of companies do that kind of thing.
Yeah. So the cool thing about this processor it should provide a big boost to performance. Now, in the past, we've seen from generation to generation, we've seen maybe 10, 15% boost. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the jump is this time, but it should be more significant than that. Mm-hmm. The big change is that there are more cores that these laptops are using. The 15-inch goes from a quad-core, 4-core processor to a 6-core processor. Mm-hmm. And the 13-inch goes from a dual-core to a quad-core. So it's doubling the number of cores. So in addition to that, the Apple has switched over to DDR4 RAM, which is another thing that, as I mentioned, Gordon would always talk about, like, why are they still using DDR3?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And a lot of it, Apple didn't actually specifically say this, but a lot of it has to do with power consumption. So that's kind of the two key elements, or the key element is the new processor in these laptops. So Apple actually had a showcase yesterday for members of the media in New York to show off these new laptops. And I was there yesterday. That's why we didn't have a podcast yesterday. We usually broadcast on Wednesdays, but I was in New York taking a look at the new laptops.
Yeah,
So-
on Twitter, Elaine Up was saying they set up an alarm for yesterday and no podcast.
Yeah, sorry about that. So
But at the same time, think about that with Apple's embargo. He was in New York yesterday.
Right.
He's here now. He wrote up an story about it. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, sitting in a chair going 500 miles per hour in the air. That's what happened.
yeah, and so the tricky thing, more a little bit behind the scenes, we were trying to. Apple invited us to this event, but they told me it was under embargo, but they didn't tell me when the embargo would lift until later. So last week we had no idea when we were going to be able to talk about this. So that's why we just knew we weren't going to be able to schedule the podcast on Wednesday. And so it was, yeah. So it just kind of scheduling wise, it threw a wrench into how we usually do things.
Also important to say that we were speculating what it was going to be like the day before. So yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't look too bad, all things considered, for flying back at the red eye.
Yeah, yeah, I'm feeling. As you can see, I'm wearing my Apple fanboy gear. I'm wearing the Apple hoodie, and actually, I'm wearing a Siri T-shirt.
Wow.
But yeah, I was in New York. It was friggin' hot. Yesterday or Tuesday when I got there. It wasn't as bad on Wednesday, but as they say, it's not the heat; it's the humidity. So,
And we have a question on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the name is Cherry Berry. And they're asking, are the older Macs going to be reduced in price as a result?
So the way Apple cycles their products is they take, when the new laptops come out, they take the old ones off. So the only way you can get the old ones with the laptops is if you go into the refurb store. So you can't, they don't do like a sale of brand new of the previous versions. Apple doesn't do it that way. So the only way you can get it now, you might be able to go in. I don't know if this is true now. I'm going to say it, but I don't know if it's true. You might be able to go into an Apple store and find a previous model, but I don't think they slashed the price.
But give you an idea, it's just like the new iPad. It's
Right.
priced similarly to the previous year. So now you're seeing all kind of ridiculous discounts on that from third-party sellers, excuse me. And so you'll probably see the same thing with inventory with the previous MacBooks as well.
Right. So if you want to get a 2017 MacBook Pro, your best bet to get a discounted price is to go to a third-party reseller like Best Buy or somewhere online.
Does Amazon count as that?
Amazon probably does count, yeah.
As long as they have it in stock, yeah.
Right, yeah.
We should mention, since they're looking at deals and prices, that Apple's also starting their back to school sale.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Which if you're a student, a college student or something like that, then you can get there's discounts on a bunch of different Apple gear, including the MacBooks, and you get a pair of Beats headphones, stuff like that. We have details on the site any minute now. We're just about to publish a story with some details on their back to school sale. So that's kicking off as well for students. And these new MacBooks are going to be part of the back to school, the new MacBook Pros.
Yeah, so that's one
Okay.
way you can do that.
So wait, this is different from the normal educational discount?
Correct. It's for students only, but it is a special sale where they give you a pair of Beats headphones, and the discounts are different than their regular everyday educational discount.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, in my opinion, it's not as good as it used to be.
No, it is not. It is absolutely not.
Right. The discount's not as good as it used to be.
Yeah.
This year's sale is a little better than it usually is.
Yeah.
You get, let's see, I have the info right here because we just published the article. So the info is up on macworld.com. But with MacBook Pros, MacBooks, MacBook Airs, iMacs, you get to choose from a pair of Beats Solo 3s which are $300 headphones, Powerbeats wireless or Beats X headphones. And you get their typical back to school promotion. Let's see. And if you buy an iPad Pro, you get a free pair of Powerbeats 3 wireless or Beats X. So those are all better and more expensive Beats headphones than they've ever done years before. It's, you can get a couple $100 worth of pair of Beats headphones.
All right. On Twitter, Coral says upgrading Macs every cycle gets to be pretty expensive. Better specs. And I know that, like, from the video side, cores oftentimes do really matter as far as improvements, especially in like After Effects Premiere. After Effects is a little bit more graphics card intensive, but I think CADs use it a lot too. So, what's your impression on the improvements people are going to see?
Apple made the blanket generic statement that with the 15-inch MacBook Pro, you could see up to 70 times better performance. Now, of course,
70%, right?
or 70. I forget if it's 70.
It was like 70. I think it was something in the 70s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, of course, that all depends on what you're doing. You may not, it all depends on what you're doing and what kind of task you're performing and things like that. Windows, you may not notice, like, for instance, Windows opening any faster or anything like that. But if you're like rendering or something like that, they
big
didn't
photo tasks, big
Yeah.
video tasks, development, running not VPNs, running virtual environments for development and testing, stuff like that. Those are all going to be much, much faster. If you're just surfing the web, that's not CPU bottleneck most of the time.
Right.
So
If
that's
you're
not
just
really your
surfing the
issue.
web, I don't think you need a MacBook Pro. I mean, 15-inch. But
Yeah, you don't need.
Yeah, Jason actually wrote a whole article of what you could expect in terms of performance boosts.
Yeah,
So-
I looked at the benchmarks and stuff we did, or we meaning IDG, that PC World did back in April, looking at the comparison of the Coffee Lake chips to the previous generation, the Kaby Lake chips, and also just looking at the clock speeds that Apple is saying to kind of back my way into which exact model chip is that, because they never say. It's not until people get the laptops in their hands that we start to figure out exactly which model of chip is it.
Yeah.
And on the 15-inch MacBook Pro, what you're getting is you're getting 2 more cores, and on tasks that use 11 or 12 threads, like things like video rendering, WinRAR is good at that kind of stuff. You get up to 50% faster performance. But even on low core count, 1 and 2, 3 thread things, which happens all the time, you're looking at 15 to 20% faster. That's because the boost clocks are higher and there's more cache. So that's a big win. That's not, it's just more cores. It's going to be faster in everything.
Yeah.
And you're going to see an even better uplift in the 13-inch model because it's double the cores.
Yeah.
Right.
It's going from 2 to 4 cores, and they're all hyper-threaded. All these have hyper-threading, so 8 threads. And there are far more apps that use more than 4 threads, like in the 4 to 8 thread range, than there are that use like 12 threads. So more often you're going to fully utilize that chip. You're going to see that big performance jump, and the clock. And there too, the boost clocks are higher. There's more cache.
Yeah.
What's not that different is the GPU that is in the 13-inch models. They use Intel's integrated GPU.
Yeah.
That version is in Coffee Lake is not really different than Kaby Lake at all. It has a tiny, tiny little bit higher clock speed, but the main difference is it has double the embedded DRAM, and that'll help on really high resolutions. But other than that, you're not going to see a big boost in graphics performance.
Yeah.
On the 15-inch models, all of those laptops always come with a discrete GPU, and it's been a Radeon 555, Radeon Pro 555.
Is that changing?
It's getting an X.
Yeah,
the next.
so it's a 555 in the KB Lake ones. It was a 555, and you can upgrade to like a 560 or something. That's still now it's a 555X, which is pretty much the same thing.
Yes.
The only difference, and this is kind of important, is that the base model used to be 2 gigs of RAM of graphics RAM. Now they're all 4 gigs.
Okay.
That's good.
So you don't. There is no low end 2 gigs of graphics RAM model, and that's good because on those high res 15-inch screens, 2 gigs is not cutting it.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially when you try and run something at like even at 1080p, like running a game or something at 1080p, 2 gigs is not good these days. So you don't have to pay for that upgrade to get that 4 gig memory card now. 4 gig graphics. Sorry, it's early.
Yeah.
Cool.
But otherwise, just like flat out performance wise, other than those little tweaks, graphics aren't going to get that big boost that you're seeing in the CPU side.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. On YouTube, Lucky Strike is asking, have you covered anything about MacBooks and what processors will they have? And I'm trying to find the name, but Jerry Ann on Twitter asks if there was anything on desktop there. And I'm going to ask 2 questions I think audience might have, and that is, one, does it look any different? Physically built, and do you know anything about prices?
So, okay, the first question. Let me go backwards.
The first question
MacBooks.
is just
MacBooks.
It's only MacBook
Right.
Pros.
Okay.
Nothing else has been upgraded. No
Yes.
MacBook Air, no MacBook, no desktops, no iMacs.
Yeah.
Right now, just the MacBook Pros.
There are some rumors that we'll
Yes.
get to in a bit, but yeah, this was only MacBook Pros.
As official information.
Yes, as official information, only MacBook Pros.
Easy one I can get out of the way. 13-inch currently would start at $17.99. The 15-inch would start at $2,399. So,
Yeah, so
Which is the same as before.
so
yeah,
it's
the
before-
prices
Same
are the
starting
same as
price.
before. Another clarification. There is the 13-inch without the touch bar. That remains the same. So that hasn't changed at all.
Oh, so they're not touching that one at all. Period.
Exactly.
without
Right.
the touch bar.
The one without the touch bar. The only one that has changed is the one with the touch bar. So the prices are still the same: $12.99, $14.99, $17.99, $19.99 for the 13-inchers, and $23.99 and $27.99 for the
15-inch.
yeah. You mentioned the prices. It's too early. So
One little last technical thing that reminded me of is they used to max out at 16 gigs of RAM. You
Right.
can get 32 now if you want to pay to upgrade your RAM when you buy the thing. So if you happen to work on like a lot of 4K video or something that really is RAM hungry, you can get up to 32 now.
So
Yeah.
if you were to, I don't know if it's available on the store yet, but what is the max, like a fully maxed out laptop going to cost you?
I think they are available, right?
Yeah, I think he's
They can
looking at
spec
it.
it
yeah, you
out?
can if you spec it out. I haven't spec'd it out yet.
Okay.
I'll look it up while you answer the other questions.
And can't you
Yeah.
bring up the storage to like 4 terabytes now? I think something like that.
Yes,
That's crazy.
on the 15-inch MacBook Pro, you can go up to a 4 terabyte SSD. On the 13-inch, it's a 2 terabyte SSD.
But they're not. They don't have anything like NVMe M.2 drives, right? In there, it's just like a normal solid state.
They actually have very special. I actually think
Right.
it is NVMe based.
Yeah,
They
okay.
don't tell you on there, but it's Apple's storage is way fast, and it has been for a few years. They've been way in the
Yeah.
lead on storage performance.
Yeah, I think it is NVMe.
ME.
Yeah.
Here's your price for a maxed out 15-inch MacBook Pro. That is that's the Core i9. They have that special Core i9
nice.
version, and 32 gigs of RAM and 4 gig SSD. No, with no added software, not adding in like Final Cut or anything like that, is $66.99.
All right, Apple, if you're listening, I could use one of those. Just saying.
Another important thing, since that's been in the news a lot lately, is that it apparently has a quieter keyboard. But there was there was no reference to Apple improving it. But there may have been some kind of they're trying to avoid talking about that too much. But obviously, if it's quieter, they've done something to it to improve it, and whether or not it's more reliable or not, that's anybody's guess. And but you've probably heard me on this podcast before talking about how some of the other people in the office here say that me typing on my MacBook Pro is really loud, so having a quieter keyboard would be really nice.
It can't be louder than a mechanical. I mean, it's technically a mechanical keyboard.
They say
right?
It bothers them more, but I imagine that's just Apple hate from the PC world guys.
It's a high frequency click. Too.
Yeah.
That matters.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's like a deeper bass or like a boom. It's like a thump.
Yeah.
Whereas the clickiness of a mechanical keyboard, there's something almost like joyous about it. You know what I mean?
I don't like mechanical keyboards.
Really?
I
don't
kinda
like the sound. So,
I wonder.
Reminds me of like prancing horses or something like that. But there's something
Prancing horses. Okay. All right.
Whereas like it's like thump, 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 thump. Right.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder if it's a lot to do with the bottoming out because, on a regular, mechanical keyboard, you're probably starting to let go after you feel the click. But obviously, because there's so little movement in the MacBook Pro that you're just like it's just hitting the very end, like
it's not. You can tell from the feel of it. It's not just bottoming out. There's something in the mechanism that clicks. And
Right.
I think they must have softened whatever that is that makes that happen. They call it a third generation butterfly keyboard. It's still the butterfly. It's not the old longer throw. They all have short throw compared to a desktop keyboard. But yeah,
and Apple was saying at the event that you can't take any photos or video, right?
So at the showcase, I've been asked to call it a showcase.
Okay, at the showcase.
At the showcase, they did not allow us to take video or photos.
But could you have recorded audio? Did anyone record the sound of the clickiness?
So when I tried the keyboard at the event, the thing was the venue. So they have this loft studio, or is it a loft? Yeah, in New York that they have these events, and it's kind of echoey. So I couldn't tell. So it was hard to tell what the sound was like.
And it was probably loud and crowded too, huh?
It actually wasn't, but it's like a very wide open space with high ceilings. So sound kind of travels everywhere. It's free to and it was hard to kind of like figure. I just couldn't tell. It was just really too difficult for me to tell if it was louder or not. And also because maybe it would have helped if I had another older laptop and do a comparison. But I don't know. I think maybe just the room didn't work with the room. So I would have imagined that a recording wouldn't be able to deliver.
Maybe if we get review units in time for next week's podcast or whenever we do a podcast next week, we have that meetings, then we can actually do it on the podcast.
Yeah.
We can see if they can hear the difference with those mics.
Matter of fact, I was going to ask Roman when we get a review, maybe soon. I don't know if I'm breaking embargo there. We'll just do a quick video up there and I'll throw it on Macworld's YouTube channel.
So we hope to get one in soon. I don't know. They haven't given me a date. So I know they're for sale, but does it say when they start? When they're if you get
when
they ship. When you go to buy, it gives you an idea of what the availability is, and it says if you order today, it delivers June 16th to June 18th. So you have to wait like July. Sorry,
yeah.
June next year. You have to wait a year.
So that's pretty soon.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's less than 5 days.
week.
It's about 5 days. So
Apple does that a lot where they drop it right after.
So I have a question just kind of about the whole kind of event since you were talking about it. Is it weird that this is now kind of like 2 events sort of in a row-ish? Do you think they're going to do more events like secretly or just like showcases secretly, versus, these big official, press announcements? What's up with that?
So I was thinking about that because, so behind the scenes for people, when we were invited to this showcase, we were trying to figure out what it would be because we were like, could it just be MacBook Pros and that's all they're doing and I have to fly out to New York to go see some.
And that was me. I was like, they're not going to fly you to New York for a MacBook Pro refresh.
Which is crazy because Cupertino is
right there.
is right
it's
here.
right down the street. But as it turns out, a lot of tech media is located on the East Coast. So, which seems kind of odd because everything happens here on the West Coast in
Yeah.
terms of tech. But, the big sites, a lot of them have headquarters on the East Coast. So that's one reason. Another reason that I totally made up in my head is that Apple PR has a huge budget and looks for excuses to go to places that they like to go, like New York.
Why not do Hawaii?
Oh, God.
Someplace way nicer.
So, but then again, I know that a lot of Apple people who are there, they tend to leave right after the event.
Yeah.
They're not sticking around. So, but I mean, they have to be there through the weekend, probably setting up and stuff. Because when you go to the event, there were home pods there. They have photos up and stuff. So they set up this venue. So.
I don't think that there's necessarily going to be a change into how Apple announces products. I think this is kind of what they do, is where when it's a really new product, a really major generational leap or something like that, then it's on stage somewhere. It's at WWDC. It's at the September event. Mm-hmm. They have sometimes spring events or an October event, like a media event in October. And those are the big ones that get streamed out, and there's a big audience and everything. And then when they have little products, like little refreshes like this that are just like, it's mostly just a CPU upgrade to MacBooks, that not a design refresh or any brand new amazing technology, then they, invite press in small groups to check it out under embargo, under a really tight, short embargo, and they ship them right away and stuff like that. So I think that's going to keep happening.
Another thing is you have the when you have the big events, kind of like Jason was talking about, is that you have the really cool invitations that other journalists like to share on Twitter and everything, and they have clues inside the invitations and everything. There was none of that here. It was basically an email. So.
Yeah, I mean, I could have seen this. Feels like it's, at least to me, a pretty significant upgrade, especially on the improvement side. That I could have easily seen them have make an announcement at WWDC, just saying, and we're bringing 6 cores, to the laptops, and it won't be available till July.
Goodbye, everyone.
Right?
Yeah, and this upgrade is perfectly targeted at that WWDC audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was a decision in terms of like trying to spread the news out, like they wanted to. There was a lot of talk before WWDC that they wanted to focus on software. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if this decision was to kind of stick to that program, if they wanted to just spread the cycle out a little bit more, maybe both. I don't know if it has to do with production and ramping up so that product is available. We don't know, but I mean, it could be all those things, or it could have just been, we'll do it in July.
Besides the processor and the quieter keyboard, we should mention there's 2 other significant upgrades or changes. One is that they're...
See, you said significant.
What's that?
You said significant.
Am I not allowed to say significant?
Well, you're saying it was just a CPU upgrade.
Just things worth noting, I guess I should say. Like double the max RAM is not that significant, but True Tone display, which we've seen in the iPads and the iPhone 8 and 10. These are the first Mac with a True Tone display. And it has the T2 processor in it, which the iMac Pro does. And it does all the same stuff it does in the iMac Pro. It's Secure Boot, and it's the Secure Enclave for your Touch ID. It does the audio processing. It's the audio codec. And it has the image processor that manages all the images from the FaceTime camera. So you should get better FaceTime quality, which is a real issue because that camera stinks.
Right.
The camera.
They haven't upgraded that camera.
The webcam, it's so old generation tech, but at least the video processing should be better enough to give you better image quality. And they looked at that in the iMac Pro, and there really is a marked difference. So that, and it also offloads the disk encryption to the T2, which it does on the iMac Pro. So those things should help speed up things also just a tiny bit. And I think we're going to see this in Macs going forward, they're going to stick. Those T2s,
Right.
maybe next generation T3s and stuff like that are going to be in future Macs. I think this is the way they go.
Yeah. It's kind of a way to kind of get a little more performance out of the main CPU. So it doesn't have to deal with this overhead.
It's a big security
stuff.
boost too,
Yeah.
to like have this thing that they control, this
True,
this
yeah.
processor be the first thing that has to happen before you can boot up the machine. It's like a level before the machine will even post in Windows terms. Before it'll post the BIOS, this thing has to authenticate, and them being able to control that gives them a lot of helps in security. If there's a security problem, Apple's in control of it.
Yeah.
So
On YouTube, Yoel is asking if there was there anything new to the touch bar? And Coral and I have kind of a similar question about the camera. I guess what's preventing them from updating? And are you surprised at all that they're not bringing Face ID at all?
So the touch bar is also supports True
True
Tone,
tone.
which seems kind of odd to me, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't sound like, on the surface it can, what? But I guess in use, maybe it'll make more sense.
At least the price remains the same with all the little knickknacks. Yes.
Yeah. So,
Classify that under whatevs.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for people who actually use the touch bar, they might notice it. So, but yeah. So, another thing about the T2 is that it now has support for Hey Siri.
That's right.
So if you want to use Siri while you're using your new MacBook Pro, you can say Hey Siri and the Siri interface.
Can you say Yo Siri?
As Kevin Durant has shown,
Yeah.
you can't say that.
I wasn't sure if they said because
Just activate it.
at the end of the commercial, they're like, okay, for you. They're like, okay, Durant, we'll make that for you. And I was like, does that mean Yo Siri
Only-
actually does work, or is that just the joke?
I think
that's just a joke.
Yeah,
They should totally make that.
they should. Yeah.
Yo,
Or
Siri.
what would be cool is if it only worked for Kevin Durant. That would be cool. But yeah. So there's that.
Camera.
The camera. I'm only guessing that there's something maybe in terms of they just can't get the size down. That's the only
There's-
thing I could think of.
There's Windows laptops with a lid as thin as a MacBook Pro
and with
on
better
the edge
cameras.
Yeah.
that have much better cameras. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is.
They could fit it in a phone. They could fit it in the.
Right.
No, the phone's much thicker than that top
Yeah, true.
edge lid
That's true.
of a lid. As far as, but then again, there's stuff behind the camera
Yeah.
module of the phone too, so who knows? As far as Face ID, I'm a little surprised they're not. I think maybe that's coming when there's a big design refresh of the MacBook. I would not be at all surprised if they put the, it's not a Face ID module, it's a TrueDepth. The TrueDepth module,
Right.
the whole module from an iPhone, just stick it up there, hopefully without a notch.
I was gonna say.
We don't really need a notch on the laptop, but
But Mike
I would not be.
Mike Simon would love it. He'd be like, "Oh, that's great. I love that notch on it."
Let's make fun of him since he's not here.
Yeah.
But they could, if they could put that in there, because
Right.
using stuff like Windows Hello on PCs to log in with your face, that's great. You're always looking right at it anyways because you're opening up your laptop and it's looking right at you. So
Yes. Yeah. So I could see that. Maybe in a future T3 chip.
Yeah.
And then incorporating the whole TrueDepth camera. So maybe next year. So
Maybe. That sounds about right for next year.
yeah. So there was a question earlier about Mac desktops.
Yeah.
So there was nothing announced in terms of Mac desktops. Not really related, but kind of related. Apple or Blackmagic was there at this showcase, and they announced a new eGPU. So an external graphics processing unit.
How different is that compared to what Leif has been looking at?
The biggest difference is that this is an integrated graphics card, so
You're
you can't.
stuck with what they give you.
It's a fixed card in a unit, so you can't upgrade the card later.
And it's like a Radeon 580, is it?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's a
yes.
Radeon 580. It's $699. It's
So did they announce anything about additional compatibility, like it's adding that you can use it to render and do a lot more? Because I feel like when Leif was testing it out, it wasn't doing. It was just basically powering an extra monitor. But can you do a lot more with it now?
So,
or did they not talk about that?
They did. So the people that they had demoing, they had excuse me. Mm-hmm. They had one person who has this one doctor who does biological 3D animations, and she does a project called Molecular Flipbook, which is an open source app, and she makes these animations, and she has used the eGPU for that.
Okay.
There was
so it must do more now.
I think it does do more. Yeah.
Okay. That's
Looking
good.
at the photo, you still need an external monitor though for it to work. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so then it's not doing rendering. It's just extra screen? I'm confused.
I don't think it actually is technically capable of doing more stuff than it ever has before.
Right.
It's a matter of when apps update to support the eGPU.
Right.
It's app update issues. Anything that uses Metal or probably even OpenGL can use it. It's just that if you want to use an eGPU, you have to plug your monitor into that eGPU.
Yeah.
You can't use the eGPU with the monitor plugged into with the display on your laptop or plugging in something separate.
Right. Yeah, you have to use an external. So this particular product is actually kind of geared towards Apple users. So it works with, the reason why I brought it up in the desktop Mac stuff is that it works with Thunderbolt 3 Macs.
Okay.
So you can use it on an iMac Pro, any Mac that has Thunderbolt 3. And you have to run High Sierra because High Sierra has the built-in support for the eGPUs. So it's it also has some additional connectivity ports. So it has 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, 4 USB 3 ports, and an HDMI HDMI 2 jack.
Now, bluntly, I'm actually not that impressed by this. You can get better performance with a better card with some of the eGPUs I was playing with. This, what he was talking about, this is seem geared towards Apple users. I'm not trying to be cynical here, but it really does seem like it's people who really, I just needed a more powerful graphics card. Here's one. I don't have to put anything in it. I don't have to do any customization. I just have to plug it in. And I'm like, and it's not even that powerful in my opinion. Yeah.
It would be nice if there was a more powerful GPU in there, but I don't think that's a bad price. $699. No. It's the enclosure and the card. Which isn't bad. Yeah. And it's a hub for, like you said, for additional Thunderbolt and USB ports, which some of these eGPU things aren't doing. Enclosures aren't doing. So, if you're, some people are intimidated by having what card do I buy? How do I, if that's and it's a little smaller, it seems like it's a little more compact. So it seems like if you're the kind of person who's that intimidated by these things, you're not paying a big surcharge to plug this in, and you're not losing ports. You're gaining a bunch of ports. So
I haven't seen it in person, but it also looks like it has more vertical design than horizontal. Usually when you see them, and so it's kind of like the Mac Pro almost, and that type of form factor where it's more up and down.
So I would like to see them do a Vega version of this. Instead of just the Radeon Pro 580. But for what it is, it seems like it's not a bad price and it's not a bad design.
So just to kind of wrap up Apple's announcements, Apple also released some new leather sleeves for the MacBook Pro.
Yeah, they only used to be for the MacBook before, right?
Yeah.
The 12-inch, not Air, not Pro MacBook.
Yeah.
And now they make sleeves for the Pro.
Yeah. So.
Yay.
But yay for leather sleeves.
Yay for leather sleeves.
I want to see you with a leather sleeve, like the basketball players wear.
Just walk around the office with a leather sleeve.
Yeah.
So we hope to get one in sooner than later, and we'll do a full review. But if you want more details on the new laptops, on the Blackmagic eGPU, on the leather sleeves, on the potential performance boost that you can get, check out our website. We've got articles on all of that. and we'll be waiting for a review in it and hoping to have a little more on that coming soon.
Yeah, but unofficially, what about the unofficial news?
So that's all for all the official news, but there was a lot of unofficial news that also came out yesterday. Starting with a potential Mac Mini. Is that right?
Yeah.
We should mention that all these things, all these new rumors are from a new report from Ming-Chi
Kuo.
Kuo,
Right.
who I forget where he works now. He
Right.
changed
I
jobs.
also get to.
He's an analyst. He just changed
Security.
firms.
KF
But he
Securities?
released the new, TI Security, something like that. But he released a new report, and it's got a whole bunch of here's what I expect from Apple, and he's unusually accurate.
Yeah.
He's really dialed into the supply chain, and that's where he's kind of getting the sources for these rumors. So some of this stuff is stuff we heard before, and there's a bunch of new stuff too.
So were there any? Did he? I admit I'm kind of behind on the rumors.
You were
So-
flying a lot.
I was in airplanes without any Wi-Fi. That sucks. No Wi-Fi and no headphones. So, did he release any specs on potential specs for the Mac Mini? Did he talk about?
I mean, it was just basically that there was going to be, it's going to obviously have like a new chip in it and stuff like that, but it's
But
nothing
it-
specific.
I mean-
just said there will be an upgraded Mac Mini, and that could be a whole new design. It could be,
Right.
we don't know.
I mean,
Yeah.
even if it looks exactly the same, that's pretty big since it hasn't been updated in what, 5 years?
It's going to be more mini.
4,
I'm
I
pretty
think,
sure.
that's the most recent
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
update.
it's forever in tech terms.
yeah. Especially when we have the PC. What are they called again?
Nooks.
The Nuke. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, new unit computing. Is that right?
Yeah.
yeah. That are really small.
This is going to be really mini. I bet it. I will bet on that.
Yeah. I don't think they're
Thumbstick.
going to go compute stick size.
No.
But, yeah.
Well, I could see them do compute stick with one Thunderbolt 3 port, and everyone would get angry.
The new the latest size for the Mac Mini, because it's gone through a couple sizes over the years,
Yeah.
isn't that big, really. It just needs to be dramatically more powerful for the
Right.
size that
Yeah.
it is.
And
So-
it would be cool if it was a Coffee Lake based Mac Mini. That might
Yeah.
be pretty cool.
Yeah.
A 6-core Mac Mini.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they're waiting to. Yeah, I mean, why they
Even
waited
the
so long. That'd be good.
Even the 4-core stuff, that would be great.
Yeah.
And more RAM, better RAM, all that stuff. So, yeah, that's the rumor is just there'll be an upgrade this year. That was
Yeah.
the rumor, and that's really all.
Yeah,
he said.
because Apple tends to use mobile processors in the Mac Mini because of the small form factor and the cooling and stuff like that. So that's why I was saying the Coffee Lake laptop processors would be kind of cool.
Definitely.
So, more rumors that came out yesterday. There was also some
Apple Watch.
Apple Watch rumors. Leif, can you enlighten us on what the Apple Watch rumors were?
Jason, you actually know the dimensions
Let's
better
pass
than
it
I
on.
do.
Just pass it on,
Yeah.
yeah.
You gotta do like that dance move where it's like and then it's like boom.
Hot potato.
Yeah.
I know he knows the dimensions.
all
There you
over.
go.
Yeah. So basically what it is the just larger displays.
Yes.
And which we'd heard
right.
before, but now there's supposedly sizes. So I think it's how many inches? I think it's going. The small version would go up to
1.57 and 1.7.
1.57 inches, and which is almost 40 millimeters. And the large one would go up to 1.78, which is
Yes.
about 45 millimeters. That's diagonal measurement. It's assumed that there's no change to the form factor or the aspect ratio or anything. So it's just the assumption is they don't want to change the case except for maybe a slight bit of thickness because they want all the bands to still work.
Right.
So there's quite a bit of bezel around the screen in the current Apple Watch, and they're thinking they're going to be able to slim that bezel and give you a bigger face, which is great. Which is
I
a
have
really
to
big
admit,
deal.
I was looking. I didn't even realize that there was that much dark space around the
Yeah,
edge of an
it's
Apple Watch.
OLED, so the black parts blend right in.
Right in.
They're so black they blend right in, which is great. The other rumors, and these are things that he said before, but he just reiterated that he expects there to be better battery life, either through a larger battery or just more efficient processor or both or whatever. and a more efficient health sensor or better health sensors, which would be maybe a better heart rate sensor. Maybe there's something else they're adding instead. So better health monitoring. It would be great if there was a heart rate monitor that was
Always on.
efficient enough to kind of be always on. That'd be good.
Yeah. So when did the Series 3 come out? That was
Last fall.
Fairly recently, yeah.
last fall.
It
So
was
we
together with the iPhones.
okay,
September
right in
event,
time
yeah.
for the holidays. So yeah, so that's coming up pretty soon then. It feels like that though that Series 3 just came out, but
Yeah.
They've been on a yearly cadence with
Yeah.
them. They announced the first one really long before it launched. Its
Right.
initial on-stage announcement. But since then, it's been announced in September with the iPhones and shipping together with the iPhones, basically, in the fall. So it seems like they're going to be on that same cadence there.
And Coral on YouTube is saying 15% increase in screen real estate.
yeah, that's Is that what the math works out to? 15%.
Yes.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, about 15% more area.
Yeah, imagine it almost going to the edge, and you have an idea of what it is. Because it's currently just like on the square edge of it. Rectangular. But yeah, when it would take up more, and that would allow I think better force touch work in there. That could work as well. I think it would be nice, especially if they don't change it. Because right now, as it is, I think it's as big as I want it. I have the bigger 42 millimeter one, but yeah.
But not any thinner. No rumors about
We don't
that.
know.
There's no
they haven't.
yeah.
I think for me, that's what it's gonna take, because I feel like the one that's now, and even a lot of watches, they're just too thick. That's kind of annoying. Like if people can watch. It's like I have a very thin profile watch, but it's it's just literally just the time.
It's funny. It barely ever bothers me, but it bothers me when I'm writing, which, as you can imagine, happens a lot. So yeah.
I'm with you, Dan, in that I have thin wrists. I always have to wear a very thin, low-profile watch, and I'm bothered by large watches and heavy watches, and almost every men's watch is ridiculously big on me and annoying. I'm not annoyed by the Apple Watch at all, and I have the large one. I have the 42. I think the shape of the back, how rounded it is, and the little bulge of the heart rate monitor and stuff like that, kind of makes it feel like it's not as hefty as it is. The points of contact aren't as much. So compared to any other watch its size, I find it way more comfortable, and I'm surprised by that.
Me too. I was expecting myself to hate the Apple Watch. I basically got it for work, I'll be honest with you. And it has gotten, especially with the sport band, I've gotten to the point where I barely notice it only when I'm typing, and that weight on my left hand is, kind of interfering. But I'm very sensitive to that type of thing. So other than that, I probably wouldn't even notice it. I don't.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of watches. I didn't wear one before the Apple Watch, and I wear it only because of work. So I feel like I should know about the Apple Watch. I actually loaned my watch to Elena Yee at PC World because she was doing a review of a different device, and she wanted to compare it to the Apple Watch. And she had my Apple Watch for over a week, and I didn't even notice that I didn't have it. So I'm just not a big watch person. So
I have to admit, there's been a couple of times when I've accidentally left it at home. It's only been twice or something. And I, believe it or not, I miss it. So I'm a little different than that. Yes. And the thing is, I have very minimal notifications. So when something actually comes in, it's pretty important. So that's one of the reasons I miss it.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm the same way. I've really managed my notifications down. I do it on my phone, but on my watch even more so. I really restrict it to, if my watch buzzes, it's something I need to pay attention to right now. And it happens several times a day, and I always look at it, and I'm always glad I have it there and can just ignore it because I don't need to pick up my phone right now.
Yeah.
So another rumor or another speculative point that Ming-Chi Kuo put out was new iPads. One that I thought was interesting, an 11-inch model. So Apple currently has a 10.5-inch model and a 12.9-inch model. So the 10.5-inch one will be replaced by the 11-inch model. So
This is iPad Pro.
Right.
iPad Pro, correct.
He didn't mention anything about. We just got an upgrade to the regular iPad,
Yeah, I don't think
there's another one coming this year.
Yeah, no way.
And that these iPad Pros would have Face ID.
To me, that's not even a question. I think that's almost a given at this point.
Yeah, it would be really weird if they shipped new iPad Pros with Touch ID.
Yes.
The question is whether they'll have a notch.
Right.
That's to me what I'm wondering. And they have to make Face ID work at any orientation,
Right.
which
That
seems a
was the
solvable
thing.
problem, but they haven't done it on the phones yet. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. It seems to me like if you took a 10.5-inch iPad and you just
Reduce the bezel.
expanded the screen into the bezels a little bit,
Right.
that'd be 11, right?
Yeah,
So it
that's
doesn't-
what I
don't
was
think
thinking.
they have to change the size of the actual.
Right. It doesn't.
physical.
Yeah, it's still the same physical size. It's just that the bezel around it is reduced.
So you think it'll be able to fit the same cases even with a big screen? Yeah, because the screen will factor into that too.
Right.
The display.
The cutouts for screens would be, yeah,
Yeah,
wouldn't work. So it would physically fit, but then,
you would have stuff cut off.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah, and the possible processor in that is an A11X. Was that what he said?
He didn't say.
Oh, he didn't say.
And the timing of it makes it weird because he reiterated the stuff about the iPhones. There's going to be 3 sizes, all the stuff we've talked about a few times, and he expect it to be an A12. In other years, the iPad Pros, the last 2 versions of iPad Pros have come out significantly before the iPhones. So they always have the last year's A processor with an X. They've
Right.
they have an A10X, and then 3, 4, or 5 months later, iPhone comes out and it's got the A11, A9X. What is different this time is it's just like it was in 2016, I want to say, or maybe it was 15, where they did announce the iPad, the new iPads together with the iPhones. And when they came out that year, the iPhone had, I believe it was the A9 or it was the A8. It was the A9, and then the iPads had an A9X. So it could be, just based on timing, the iPhones will have an A12, the iPads will have an A12X.
Right.
It would
Right.
be a little weird if you had an A12 over here that was faster than the A11,
Right.
and you had an A11X that's also faster than an A11, but maybe in different ways or something. So
Yeah.
just to keep the iPads from ever possibly being any slower than the iPhones,
Yeah.
it would be an A12X. The question is, did they plan? It takes years to design CPUs and stuff. Did they plan it this way to have the A12X ready in time for this?
All right.
Which means there would be no iPads that ever had an A11X,
Right.
right?
It's interesting. Yeah. So it's going to be
That's-
a busy fall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think they're gonna break this up into 2 events for all this, or is this? Do you think? I mean, obviously these are just rumors, but if these were all true, would this be 2 events or 1 event?
I say it depends on if they have a one more thing.
Yeah.
If they're having a big product that we don't know anything about, I think that would force a breakup into 2 different events. But if it's all these together, I think it's possible they could do it in one.
Yeah, September events typically have iPhones and or iPads. They could put those together. But if they were going to introduce a Mac Mini, there's also one of the rumors was there's a new the processor should get upgraded in the MacBook, but there's also some new low-priced notebook. People are talking about it like it's either a new MacBook Air or a replacement for the MacBook Air or something like that, but something that come in under $1,000 that'd be, if they're doing that and a Mac Mini and a processor upgrade for the MacBook, that sounds like that's a lot to do in a one more thing.
Right.
It'd be a very big September event. Sometimes they also have an October event, so
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
that'll happen. There's also supposed to be upgrades to the iMac, according to Kuo, where I would expect, first of all, that they'd get the Coffee Lake processors, but
Right.
there's also, he says, a significant display performance upgrade was the wording. I don't know what that would mean.
Yeah.
It's already a great display. It's already a DCI P3 color gamut 5K display. So
Yeah.
what's left is HDR and either a high refresh rate, variable refresh rate, something like that. So those would be great to see in an iMac.
So, do you think rumors are worth purchasing like hold-offs on?
Depends on who they come from.
I don't think so.
I don't either.
Yeah, I think because the product cycles are so long, and I can't think of one time when there was a new product and I was like, that's an absolute must-have feature that you're going to have to wait for. I think a lot of times you can live without it. I mean, so maybe in the case of the new MacBook Pros, if you were hitting a performance ceiling, then, if you were a video producer or someone who works with a lot of data, maybe then but it's hard to tell because you don't know when, there's no way to predict when Apple's going to come out with these products.
Yeah. The product cycles that we know about all the time, I think regardless of what the rumors are, the product cycle is worth holding off on. Like,
Yes, exactly.
iPhones are in September. So rumors, there or not, don't go buy a new iPhone in late August.
Yeah.
Or a new Apple Watch if you want the latest and greatest Apple Watch, because you can assume from years of repetition here that it's going to be in September.
Right.
And you're going to feel real bad if your thing got one-upped a month later.
Right.
But that really doesn't have anything to do with what the rumors are about them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Most of the time.
And even if you don't really want the latest and greatest in terms of the iPhone, waiting is always smart, because what Apple does with the iPhone, unlike the other products, is they use the older generation. They reduce the price of it. They still make it available. So, like, for instance, you can still get an iPhone 6S. It's cheaper. It's Apple's trying to provide more affordable options. So with the iPhone, there is an advantage to waiting when you're in September and you're thinking about getting a new phone. There is an advantage to waiting. But when it comes to the other Apple products, and Macs in particular, the cycle's just so erratic that you can't.
Macs and iPads kind of have a little bit of an erratic cycle.
Yeah.
You never really know.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, as a point to that, we've been hearing about these new iPad Pros since the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And we thought they were coming this spring, and then we thought they were coming at WWDC, and now we're assuming that they're probably going to come in the September launch. We just hear before the end of the year. So if you heard about them in the beginning of the year and you thought, I'm going to hold off because they're coming this spring, I'll get my iPad Pro this spring, you'd still be waiting with no new iPad Pro.
Yeah. So.
All right. So, unless there's any other rumors that we haven't talked about, what's since we have a lot of stuff going on next week, what do you think was going to happen as far as podcast goes?
Oh, that's right.
I don't think we can have one next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right at the time.
Next week,
Big meetings.
So our next podcast, we have a company. We have stuff happening in the company that will prevent us from podcasting next week. So it might have to wait until the week after. So the week of July 23rd. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like that's what's going to have to happen.
So no podcast next week.
Yeah.
But news on the website, so you can always get your fix. You can they can follow these guys on Twitter.
And I'll say if we get the new MacBook Pros in time, and we do something like a one-off hands-on video or something like that that's going to be separate from the new, we'll warn you guys.
Yeah.
We'll let you know ahead of time when and where it's going to be.
Yeah, we have some company work commitments that are happening next week. So, but if we happen to get the new MacBook Pro before that,
we'll do some stuff.
Yeah, we'll do some stuff. I'm hoping to do an unboxing, but
if we get it, we'll do an unboxing for sure.
And we'll do it live. It's going to be on a kind of short notice kind of thing. So hopefully it'll happen within the next couple days.
Definitely.
So,
So
But yeah,
stay subscribed and follow us.
yeah.
Like and subscribe.
So again, no podcast next week. We'll come back the week of the 23rd, most likely Wednesday. But keep an eye on the website. We'll post when we'll be broadcasting next. So
All right.
a lot of stuff to look forward to. So.
Yes.
I'd like to thank Jason Cross. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
So in studio, I'd like to thank Leif.
Hey, thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
I'd like to thank you, the people watching. Again, keep an eye on our website for our next broadcast. Thanks for joining us.
Ciao.